On this extra edition 44 of Flickering Dreams, we're catching up on all of these streaming films we simply couldn't fit into our last episode. They are Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, streaming on Netflix, Hell Camp Teen Nightmare, a documentary also on Netflix, Freelance, starring John Cena and Alison Brie on Prime Video, and Arthur's Whiskey, a lightweight fantasy about the elixir of youth. We also look at the UK and Ireland top 10 and look forward to, or at the time of publication, look back on the Golden Globes, which happened in Los Angeles last night. This is Flickering Dreams. Well, it's a new episode of Flickering Dreams, and you can tell it's a new episode of Flickering Dreams because we're all in different places on the screen from the last episode. But we are doing a double episode tonight because we got so much stuff to catch up on. And in this episode, what we're doing is focusing on some of the streaming movies. So quick introduction. I'm Bob Mann from One Man's Movies and BBC Radio Solent. We've got Andy Godfrey from Connect Radio and Sorted Magazine. We got Scott Forbes from the Forbes Film and TV Review. And we got Emma Sewell from Emma at the Movies, generally all over social media. And the first film we're going to look at today, I should say I've only seen one of the films that we're going to look at tonight, so I'm going to be a silent partner in a lot of this. The first film we're going to look at is Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire on Netflix. Andy, can you introduce that to us?
Zack Snyder has sat down and thought of every single science fiction, fantasy, Greek myth, Roman myth, every other myth he can think of, thrown them all into a pot, and this is what came out. Here's a clip.
When I found you in the wreckage of that ship, I considered leaving you. I was afraid you could bring trouble to us. What do you think they want?
So, I was just looking to see whether this was the normal Zack Snyder 4 hours. Unfortunately not. It's 2 hours, 13 minutes. Was it 2 hours, 13 minutes of torture, Andy?
Yes. It felt like 4 hours. As I said, he's thrown everything at this. So we have a rebel planet rebelling against the Empire. We have the Empire wanting to take over the rebel planet. So there's a bit of Magnificent Seven going on as they the people on the rebel planet try to recruit people to help them fight against the Empire. There's something of Dune going on. There's a bit of Star Wars. I mean, there's a blatant rip-off of the Jabba the Hutt scene from Return of the Jedi. There's a bit of Star Wars going on.
I thought we had that in Aquaman 2 last time.
Oh, well, it's even worse. It's even more blatant in this. There's, as I said, Dune, Star Wars, Greek myth, Lord of the Rings, you name it, it's in there. A rebel planet rebelling against an empire. I am not holding my breath for part 2. I just found it overlong, deadly dull. The effect, there's so much slow motion. One of the reasons it's over 2 hours long is because every single action scene is in slow motion. I don't need to see a man running along a cliff, jumping on a wild bird in slow motion when I know he's going to land on the bird anyway. Just film it, for Pete's sake, and get on with it. So much of this is in slow motion, unnecessarily so. Boring, get on with it, tighten it up. There's a good story in there, basically Magnificent Seven. Some of you will remember Battle Beyond the Stars from many years ago, just after Star Wars came out. That was okay. This is a marathon, and so obvious and so tediously plotted, so obviously plotted. No, I did enjoy
Not
it.
For
and
you.
I'm a big fantasy sci-fi fan. Yeah.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, I can agree with what Andy was saying there. My point of reference would actually be more A Bug's Life, which I know is Seven Samurai, but of my era. But yeah, this was A Bug's Life in space. Again, he's mentioned it all: Star Wars, Star Trek, Avatar, Dune. Yep. I think there's a bit of Mulan in there. It's like everything that you could think of. He's just put it all in one movie, slowed it down, and I don't know, I found it very forgettable. The characters, I remember Sophia Boutella being in it, but I don't really remember, well, I definitely don't remember any names. I can barely remember much of the cast that was around her. It was a very lazy motivation that they gave her for her uprising. I don't know. I've never really been a big Zack Snyder fan, to be honest. I've struggled with, I was going to say most, but probably all of his movies to some extent. I've really struggled to enjoy. I will give him, there's some moments of good cinematography, some good visuals. I like the score. That was quite good in a sort of like bombastic, actiony blockbuster type of way. But I'm really clutching at straws to find positives with this, because I don't think it was completely terrible, but it was a bit of a waste of time, and I actually don't know if I even will bother with part 2.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at the cast list. There's apart from Sophia Boutella, there's Jimon Hunsu, who I know is quite good. Anthony Hopkins is in this film as the voice of Jimmy.
Pointless narrator.
Does he really need the money?
Yeah, well, it'll be a good pointless answer, won't it? For if you're ever on Pointless in the future. Okay. Emma, same for you.
Very, very similar. I did start making a list of all the things it had ripped off. So obviously, we had the Dune, Star Wars. What else did I put down? Star Trek, Harry Potter, Doctor Who, which is right in the trailer that I watched when I just now. Blade, Captain Marvel, Demolition Man, and Wolverine in any X-Men movie. It was just like if someone came to me and went, "You have to watch a Zack Snyder film. Do you want the 4-hour cut of Justice League, or this?" I'm going Justice League, and I'm going to sit there for 4 hours and watch that. I just didn't understand. Like, you've got the robot in it, and you think, "Oh, that's going to be a big part of this," and it does a few things, and then you don't see it again. And it genuinely... Oh, and Firefly. Throw in some Firefly there as well. It's just everything you've seen before in one movie, and I do not know why someone would make it. Genuinely, no clue.
Yeah. Bit interesting, isn't it, hearing your comments of this after we all praised Gareth Edwards, the creator from last year, which really was a kind of a pretty novel science fiction film that didn't seem to deliberately take it off.
There's nothing novel about this at all. There's nothing original about this.
No, that's what I say. Yeah, that's what I say. It's quite a contrast, isn't it?
It's interesting, though, that this started off life meant to be a Star Wars film. They didn't want it. And that's why he just was like, well, I'm just going to make the movie anyway and just not make it Jedi.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. This was going to be episode 11 or whatever it is. Episode 10.
The spin-off solo.
Yeah.
It is Return of the Fast.
I think I know where this is going. Scores on the doors. Andy?
3.
3. Scott?
Maybe a generous 5.
5. And Emma?
2 from me.
So that's 7, 10. That puts us at 3.33, which I can't say very well, but that is one of the biggest misses so far. Well, it's only our first couple of shows of 2024, but that's definitely a solid turd miss. Right, we're going to move on now to a documentary which is on Netflix, and this was actually quite hard to find a trailer for, but I managed to find it in the end. So Emma, can you introduce that to us?
Sure. So documentary set in the US about out of control teens that are sent away to therapy camp. Here's a clip.
The 80s were a time when the world was changing. There was a deep concern that the youth of America was taking a wrong turn. You know, what do?
Steve Cardizano was a genius.
I think he was ahead of his time. He had this great idea.
It's called the Challenger Foundation. The kids are worn down until they're good again.
We're made better by struggle. It's a simple equation.
Right. Back the stocks. Throw tomatoes at them. Yes. Don't break the law, asshole. Right. Emma, you're the only one who's seen this one. It's supposed to be quite shocking, isn't it? I think it's an 18 certificate, this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. It is like it starts off very run of the mill sort of Channel 5-y documentary. You know, you think, oh, it's a little bit throwaway, but it is interesting, and like they're telling you about how it starts as this general camp where they take them on hikes into the wilderness, and you think, oh, this is just like a normal story. Like there didn't really seem to be anything earth-shattering that you discover, and it really takes a turn. you get to a point and the stories start becoming horrific, and I think they did it really well. They've got some of the people who went to the camp, and all through the first bit it is very down to earth and they're happy and jokey, and then they start talking about the really serious stuff that happened, and the whole tone of the documentary changes. Oh, it was hideous to watch, but you know, so interesting to find out about this guy who he must have been raking it in, the amount of money he was charging these parents to essentially they just turn up and take the kids. But horrific, like what happened. And you see a handful of the people that they've got on actually were at the camp at the same time, and you're obviously hearing about the stories from people going, this happened to me, that happened to me, and then someone else is going, the leaders made us do these things, and they were doing it to one of the other people that was like in the documentary, and the way they see it from, you know, their point of view is really chilling. To like, well, you know, I hope they don't hate me for this because, you know, I had to do it. And it's like, oh, this is very awkward.
They were only following your orders, General.
And it was so, like, really interesting. And I mean, will it change my life for having watched it? Probably not really. But it was very interesting to watch. Yeah, and so if you like that sort of, it's almost like a true crimey type documentary. Yeah, just a really interesting thing that I had never heard of before.
Okay.
So yeah,
sounds like committed viewing for the Reform Party in the UK. Right. So I think you're the only one who's seen this one. Score out of 10, Emma?
I'm going to give it a 7.
7.
It was a good watch, but definitely trigger warnings in there.
Okay.
Might be worth reading up on it a little bit before watching it.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah. Okay. So that makes, just based on Emma's view, Hell Camp Teenage Nightmare on Netflix, a marginal hit. Okay. We're going to have a quick look now at the current UK and Ireland top 10 box office. We've been off air for a few weeks, but my oh my, Wonka has been pulling in the crowds. Look at that, nearly £44 million at the box office in 4 weeks. So it didn't just start high, it just went on high as well. Everything else kind of following in its footsteps. You can add basically, I think, all of those other box office totals together and you still wouldn't meet Wonka's total. Second, we've got Ferrari, nearly 2 million. Third place, we've got Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which really doesn't deserve to have made 6 million, in my humble opinion. It was my worst movie of December. The Boy and the Heron, been out a couple of weeks, scraping 1.6 million. Anyone But You, that we just talked about in the last episode, 1.2 million. Disney's Wish. What? How? It's a rom-com. Oh.
If only it was.
Disney's Wish, 6 weeks in the chart. Not generally perceived to be one of Disney's best, but it still brought in nearly 10 million quid. Next Goal Wins, 2 weeks out there. Not scraped 1 million yet, which is a bit surprising. The Hunger Games. Who's continuing to go and see the Hunger Games, for heaven's sake? It's still clocking up box office. It's number 8 in the charts. It's made 17.5 million, so that's a pretty decent box office in the UK for the Hunger Games film. Napoleon has made nearly 14 million, 7 weeks in the chart at number 9. And our Flickering Dreams film of the year for last year, Godzilla -1, 3 weeks in the chart. It's scraping along at 2 million, probably because it's in Japanese. But people out there, if you've not seen Godzilla -1, go and see it. It's a cracking film. Okay, back to the movies now. And we are going to be looking at another film on streaming. This is on Prime Video, and this is the film Freelance. Scott, can you introduce this to us?
Yeah, so in this one, John Cena stars as a soldier turned lawyer turned security protection guy who is tasked with protecting a journalist overseas. And of course, things don't go as planned. Here's a clip.
Wave to mommy, because she'll hate me even more than she already does if you don't.
I seem to recall you saying that becoming a lawyer would only crush your soul.
Yeah, it has.
I'm running a business, and right now that business is getting a journalist and Annetta Paldonia.
No.
It's a one-off.
No, and no. Who's a journalist?
I have resigned my position here.
Not interested.
20 grand says you are.
Okay, that's John Cena, who I'll pronounce his name right. I got all sorts of internet shit when I did an early podcast and I pronounced his name Senna or something, but John Cena. Who's going to start? Scott, why don't we stay with you for your views on Freelance?
Yeah, so I kind of figured that this one was going to be fairly generic, and it was. I thought, see, I like Cena, and I especially like Cena in comedy roles. I mean, I've been a fan of his since, 2002, 2003, since his wrestling days, but I've always been a fan of him in general. And he does bring charisma to films like this, where you're not expecting anything of great quality, but you just want a bit of a fun time. And we kind of get that, where they're going around sort of destroying things, beating people up, machine gun fire everywhere. We've seen films like that a lot. There was the one recently with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock, who I can't remember, but Lost City, yeah. I was thinking of that sometimes when I was watching this one. Yeah. We get to see John Cena and Alison Brie have some good comedic chemistry here and there. Alison Brie plays the journalist. The whole thing is she's there to interview someone in some made-up country in Africa, I believe. And
South America.
There's a military.
South America it is.
Was it South America they were at?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Pandemia or something like that, I think it was.
Something, yeah. At first they said it and I was like, is that a place that I just don't know? And I was like, no, I think they knew that. So yeah, this one, it's hard to really describe it because there's not much to say. We've sort of seen it before. It's a generic action movie. There's fun to be had in a switch your brain off type of way. If you like that kind of thing, it passes the time okay.
Okay. Emma, you've seen this one as well?
I have. Yeah, again, like you see the trailer for this and you're like, it's going to be terrible, but I'll watch it anyway. I really enjoyed myself. I was fed up of having to think about things. You know, it was my last day off until going back to work. And It's just a good laugh, but it is exactly like Lost City, just less inept male character. And Superman, where Amy Adams is out interviewing someone. So mix that and Lost City together, and you get this. And like, genuinely, there were some awkward moments where they're like, we need to make it look like he's going to cheat on his wife with Alison Brie. I mean, I don't feel that's a spoiler because that happens in all of these movies. And that was awful. I really hated that bit because it was so awkward and bizarre. But I just really enjoyed it. Like I say, it's not anything fantastic, but as Scott said, you can turn your brain off and watch this.
I think The Lost City was a masterpiece compared to this, I have to say. I don't know where to start on this one. I kept doing a running commentary to the illustrious Mrs. Movie Man, who was doing a jigsaw on the table, not watching the film, but she kept looking over at me. I kept saying, "No, what are you doing? I thought it was just, I thought it was so ludicrous." I mean, first of all, John Cena and Alison Brie at one point are dumped in the middle of a jungle, right? And they're running away from these machine gun toting people in a helicopter. So they're in the woods, they're in the middle of this dense forest, and they're also being pursued by two guys with machine guns on foot. So what do they decide to do? They don't decide to go into a dense bit of forest. No, they decide to ford this great wide river in the open area. And the helicopter comes around and starts machine gunning them and firing bazookas at them from this helicopter. Doesn't hit them, obviously. And this is the only helicopter in the history of aviation that doesn't actually know how to hover, right? What do you do if you're in a helicopter with a machine gun? You hover over the people in the middle of this river. You don't even need a machine gun. You take your little gun out and you go, "Bang, you're dead. Bang, you're dead." But no, right. Where are the two guys on the ground with the machine gun, right? They didn't get to the river in time, even though they're just behind them in the forest. Oh, no. They wait until they're right across and... Oh, God. And the only reason I can see for them fording through the river is that Alison Brie could get her white blouse nice and wet, right? And nice and wet and see-through for a couple of frames, right? And then she takes it off later anyway, right? Because, like you said, Emma, she's throwing herself at John Cena like a thing possessed. Get more side boob shot of Alison Brie in this film than you ever wanted to see, right? I mean, not that she's not an attractive young lady. I thought at the beginning. Stop digging the hole. I thought at the beginning she was Natalie Imbruglia, right? She had that kind of look, but I'm probably 10 years out of date. And there's another scene, right? Don't get me started, right? Where they're trying to get away on horseback, right? And this guy is in the middle of the street. John Cena rides up like some John Wayne, Roy Rogers character, and tries to get this president onto a horse. And the baddie guy's got a gun, and there's like three people shooting at them from close range. They don't even hit the horse. Right? The horse is fine. The two characters are fine, right? These people were trained at Stormtrooper College, right, in their shooting ability. Oh, I mean, I'm afraid I need just that. I understand escapism. I thought it was very much like Romancing the Stone. It was trying to get that kind of feel to it. But it was so ludicrous, yeah. And don't get me started on the final battle scenes in the. No. It wasn't for me. It wasn't my cup of tea. Right, this film.
Couldn't tell, Bob.
Yeah. Sorry, that's my rant of the day. Scores on the doors. You've not seen this, Andy?
No, I saw it. I watched it this afternoon.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
okay, I'm sorry. And you were not on my list as somebody who'd seen this film. But...
no, I caught it very late this afternoon. I was thinking Romancing the Stone even more than Lost City, if I'm honest with you. And Jordan and Nile, of course, comes into play as well, although not quite so much. But I thought, I mean, it's pure escapist nonsense. And, on a wet afternoon in Milton Keynes with a glass of something strong, it entertained.
Strong.
It entertained, but that's about it.
Right. Sorry, apologies for cutting you out with my rant.
That's
Andy.
not a problem at all.
Scores on the doors. Scott?
6.
6. Emma?
It's 7 from me.
Andy?
6 from me.
6. And I've given this one a 4. So that is 10, 16, 23 divided by 4 is 5.75, I think it is.
Just because I was looking at trivia for this, and evidently it hit Rotten Tomatoes with a 0.
Oh.
Currently the reviewer score is 6%. The audience score is 77%.
Oh, there you go. It's one of those films. Yeah.
And I just feel like we just have more fun than the serious reviewers.
Oh dear. Yes. Well, I'm afraid I'm with the serious reviewers on this one, but there you go. We all have different tastes in movies, so that's good. Okay. Unfortunately, I was going to say The Lost City, but it's not The Lost City. It's Freelance on Prime Video. Gets a miss from us. Okay, our final film in this shorter episode tonight is called Arthur's Whiskey, and I thought this was quite an intriguing trailer. Andy, can you introduce that to us?
Sure. Patricia Hodge is married to Arthur, an elderly couple, but he's been an inventor all his life, and he's finally invented something that works. Here's a clip.
To Arthur.
Oh, to Arthur.
Look at these puppies. What are we gonna do?
You never heard him say that he discovered the elixir of youth
In a bottle of scotch.
You're never too old to become young.
Exactly.
But this was quite a surprise when I didn't know what from the title I expected the film to be, but it wasn't this. I think Andy and Emma, you've seen this one. So Andy, why don't you start?
I was really enjoying this up until the moment it went into 80 for Brady book club territory, and a group of women go on a road trip, basically. I was enjoying it up to that point. So Patricia Hodge
I was watching it going, after your rant the other day, Andy, I was like, I hate this.
No. I was enjoying it up to that point, and then it kind of went for me downhill once these people living in, I forget where it's Maidenhead, who Patricia Hodge's husband has invented the elixir of youth. And Patricia Hodge and her 3 elderly friends, one of them being Lulu, the other being Diana Keaton, drink this elixir of youth. It turns them into young women. They go out, have all sorts of adventures. They go out to nightclubs. They go out, do all the things young people do. Then it turns out one of them's got terminal cancer. They decide to go off to Los Angeles and have the trip of their life. Up until that point, up until the point they left Britain, I thought this is a good, solid British comedy. I'm really enjoying it. Good cast and so on. But then for me, I just lost interest once they went to America. If they'd stayed in Britain...
It was Vegas, isn't it? It was Vegas
they went to Las Vegas, where they end up on stage with Boy George, who, by the way, features in Typist on his Pirate King. It's one of his songs. I thought it was a good, solid comedy up until that point.
Right. Okay, Emma.
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly what it said on the tin, really, wasn't it? You know exactly what you're getting, and I don't object to these sorts of movies. Yes, there are lots of far-fetched things. I mean, if you don't take into account the fact that they de-age, okay, somehow they miraculously work out it's 6 hours, even though they were asleep when it happened the last time. Yet in the future, when they take it, it happens more or less instantly. And I mean, my main bugbear was the fact that they go into his little shed and they find lots of different bottles of the elixir of youth, all in different shaped bottles, all in different places hidden. And I was just like, I don't know. I know he was a bit scatterbrained, but I still think a man who knows how to make this is going to put it all in one crate in the corner of the room. But
agreed.
Which ones for the whiskey, and which ones where he just couldn't? He got caught short and just couldn't think.
But yeah, I like. It was a fine, amusing watch.
Good stuff.
Yeah, just harmless nonsense. I think is the phrase I will use.
Right, I think this is on Sky, isn't it? It's the Sky Movies thing, so it'll be on now. Yeah, Sky Original, so it'll be on Now TV or Sky in the UK, and probably somewhere else streaming near you. Although it strikes me as a very British film, so I'm not sure it will get a US showing. But there you go.
Surprising that Diane Keaton was in it.
Yeah,
that's
obviously. I think she's obviously in it to try and give it a bit of an international flavour.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, scores on the doors then. Emma?
I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah.
A 6. And Andy?
I was going to give it a 7, and then they went all 80 for Brady and Book Club next chapter, so I'm giving it a 6.
A 6 as well. Yeah. So that's, for once, right, 2 shows. The maths is avoiding complex fractions. That gives us a Flickering Dreams score of 6.0, which unfortunately makes Arthur's Whiskey a miss. So I think we've only had 1 hit tonight out of the 1, 2, 3, 4 films we've reviewed, and that was Hell Camp Teen Nightmare. Everything else has been
I was the only one that watched it.
You were the only one that watched it, but hey, look, your view's as good as any. Okay, quick bit of any other business. We do have on this coming Sunday the Golden Globes happening in Los Angeles. Be interesting to see whether they've sorted out their house and whether they're treated with a little bit more respect than in previous years. I certainly put up my the nominations on my One Man's Movies website, and I will over the weekend before we get to Sunday put up my predictions for them coming up. In fact, that's what I'm talking about on BBC Radio Solent tomorrow afternoon. So so that will be one to watch. Any other business from you guys?
A little quick one about passing of Tom Wilkinson.
Oh, yes.
One of my favourite actors. One of those actors where it doesn't matter what film he's in, he always makes it better. That was a little bit of a surprise, and that came out.
Yeah. It was one of those like Alan Rickman for me. It was one of those, not a, oh, he's died, but oh, no, God, seriously? Right. It's that's a real loss to cinema, isn't it? He's been in so many great films. So a very sad loss. But yeah, thanks for raising that one, Scott. Anything else from anyone? Nope. Okay, we'll call it a day there, just over half an hour, which is a nice length for a podcast. And we need a break as well because we've been back to back on this for a couple of hours. So my thanks to Andy, to Emma, to Scott. And we will see you next time on Flickering Dreams. Please don't forget to subscribe by clicking on the little logo that's about to appear on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. All right, thanks very much, guys.
Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.